Micah Green, welcome to the floating world, bro.
Hey, thanks for having me. This place is dope.
I know you've been hearing about this for like a year now.
Yeah.
It took us so long to build, and now it's here. Like, how fucking sick is it?
Now it's even better than I thought it'd be.
Yeah, I know. I'm absolutely hyped, man. What's new?
So much. Lots of growth in the company side of things. Planning the wedding ceremony, which you'll definitely be there.
Fuck yeah.
Just getting robots out there, flooding the world with robots.
Dude, it's crazy because last time we spoke, it was more about your startup journey.
Yeah.
Which was super cool and interesting. But it's crazy because one of the things you said on the last episode was you guys have been paddling in front of the wave for a long time, and now the wave is finally here.
Yep.
And being in San Francisco this summer, the amount of my friends that I met or knew previously from the internet that are working on hardware was massive. And it's so cool to kind of be like a hardware, like a cowboy almost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it is this like very far off in the future field that's like collapsing in on itself. So how I kind of want this episode to be different than, not to get too meta, than in the last one, was I would love for you to like go deeper into your vision. Because I think a lot of people, now that LLMs are so popular, now that AI is so popular, now that we're starting to see robots enter the world from self-driving cars, like being very available, especially here in Austin, like I want you to steelman the case for your company's mission, which is like to create robots that help humans versus, oh my God, all our jobs are gone. We're so fucked. Like nobody's going to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely inevitable that robots are here. I think the difference, like when we spoke last time, was, the period and the wave and like where both in terms of readiness and where technology was at. Now with LLMs, like you said, it's everyone is adopting it. We have people reaching out that are just like, I need AI. Like I need to do AI, which is hilarious because that's like the driving function more so than maybe even the core value prop. Mm-hmm. But so the psychology has shifted. How people are approaching robotics and AI and automation, I think is becoming like a standard versus in the past, it was this cool, novel idea. Mm-hmm. There are a lot more companies now doing that. And I think being so far along as far along as we are, and for what we've seen, there's a lot of human element to actually implementing successful robots. It's not just the technology. I think people think it's deep tech, right? Which of course it is, and robotics and hardware and all this really fascinating technology. But at the end of the day, it's implementing it into the world. And I think that's a big part of the philosophy, is like empowering humans, helping humans, but also how do you do that in a world that exists how it exists, right? This world has been built by humans for humans. So we've talked a lot about humanoids. I think that's a huge part of the future. But I think in conjunction with humanoids, there's our vision, which is really a connected ecosystem of robots, and that can work together and do a bunch of different things. So it could be cleaning, it could be delivery, it could be security, it could be maintenance. And we're really focused on the commercial real estate world. So hotels, office space, airports, universities, apartment buildings, you name it. They're going to need robots. And it's a matter of having this ecosystem where robots can actually work together, talk to each other, deploy each other, fix each other. And if one robot has a low battery or has an issue, it can send an alert to another robot to say, hey, take over my shift. Mm-hmm. So that's really what we're building, both on the hardware side, but also the foundational models and the software that powers that powers the navigation and the intelligence, like the Waymo for indoor, but also the communication, which I kind of call like the internet of robots, where they're talking to each other. And I think that's the next level where you're going to see everything change.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even thought that far ahead, to be honest, because if I think about how does a Waymo communicate with like a Tesla robot? You know what I mean? Like we will need a sub internet that all the robots are acting on and allowing to communicate across each other, or else we're going to build, 1,000 companies with 1,000 robots and none of them are going to be able to interact, and it's going to be awful. Yeah. Like that future actually is quite scary, where all of them are in these like proprietary internets and nobody's talking to each other, and therefore all of the vision of what it could have been around this collective movement, which makes everything more efficient, just goes out the wayside. Yeah,
100%. I think you need to have some sort of contact between robots and create more of an open source environment. But I also want to control that in a sense, which is counter to that open source mentality. But you want to make sure that you're delivering things that are high quality and you're kind of curating that, right?
Well, you have to be able to hold the standards high. Yeah. Like this is, in order to be a part of this platform, you have to be able to communicate with us. So like if you're speaking Chinese and they're speaking English, like that's not going to work. So it has to be like a limiting. We have to be speaking the same language.
Yeah.
What language do robots speak in?
C++.
Is that actual? That's what.
Well, that's like the programming language. We primarily use Python too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's like what we're building right now is like those messages. And right now you can use Bluetooth, you can use Wi-Fi. But really, and we actually launched multi-robot operations, which is super exciting. It's been part of my vision for years, where now the robots are able to communicate and are able to take on their own places without overlapping. They can map out the space and actually stitch those all together. And it's just done through, right now we're using Wi-Fi as like the protocol to be able to send that to each other. Eventually we want that to be Bluetooth and not reliant on like the infrastructure itself. I think that's another important piece with robotics, again, is like, how do you integrate this without adding 40 beacons in a building or needing to create this crazy infrastructure, but just have it work anywhere?
Did you see what Jack Dorsey launched maybe like 3 weeks ago or a month ago?
I've not. No.
So it's called like Bit Chat, and it's like completely peer-to-peer via like Bluetooth networks all around each other. You can send Bitcoin like to each other and also communicate to each other through a completely peer-to-peer Bluetooth enabled. And if like your Bluetooth's too far, like if we were like, you know, like if we were trying to Bluetooth Aisha and Ellis right now, like it would jump through all the different nodes of the network Bluetooth from the side of east side of Austin to west side of Austin.
Hell yeah.
Like pretty fucking cool use of Bluetooth.
Yeah, I mean, you can leverage robots as access points too.
Yeah, they could be like, oh, cool, pop through this too.
Yeah, exactly.
And they become nodes of the network, and maybe they even get like a, I don't know, like 0.00001 Bitcoin for like being beneficial in that transaction.
Yeah, I actually have a friend who's in crypto and was mentioning like the use case of this information and also keeping it secure, right? Because as part of this, as you get more robots out there, these are physical things. It's not just, I mean, cybersecurity is huge and being able to protect financial accounts and, you know, security that way. But now you're talking about the physical world where you're actually having these things interact with people. I mean, cars is a very different category than what we're doing right now in terms of safety. But still, same thing. It's like, how are you going to be able to have that communication, have the consistency, but also make sure, probably one of the biggest risks in our time, some other country hacking into the system and, you know, starting to drive people places or create accidents or things like that. Yeah. So I think that actually is a really good use case, is robotics.
Dude, what's crazy, not to be a hater or a doomer, is one thing I've been really slow to try and experiment with is agents within like web browsing from like these large language models. And I've already seen so many horror stories where they'll have access to their entire desktop so they can log into NordPass and they can get all their passwords and log into their bank account, and then they can send money to places maybe they shouldn't be sending money. And it's like, oh, I definitely don't want to be the first guy off that ship until we build really strong restrictions here and access points. And that's the other thing about the incentive model is, you know, right now I have an assistant, shout out to Pia, she rocks, and she does all this stuff for me. And like, Pia, your job is very secure. And this is one of the reasons, is she's incentivized to make sure she does a good job, because if she did do something, and she has access to a lot of my accounts, but trusting, but like she knows that like if she did that, it would be very bad for her. Whereas if OpenAI accidentally does that to like 1,000 people, like they can make that go away. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like there's not, like if it's the agent's fault, like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. You actually signed away in your legal terms that you shouldn't have like given this rights access. And like if you start to think about the 50% of people in America who have less than 8th grade reading level, who just assume it's going to work because a company did it. Yeah. Like there's a lot of people who can get taken advantage of in this situation. So the agent's part is because I think it's going to be amazingly useful, but I'm super slow to adopt that. Yeah. That's interesting. I love it. I think it changes everything. It does. But also having access to certain accounts. I mean, I even wanted it to scour LinkedIn to find certain leads and do things like that. And just trying to log into LinkedIn through ChatGPT was the biggest pain in the ass. Yeah. It was like using a computer in the 50s. Which is, there's a benefit to that, because you don't want them to start posting like, man, I fucking hate XXX investor of yours. You know what I mean? Like just to get really mad at you and start like reacting negatively. Yeah. No, like they did at Anthropic, they did a little test to see if they could coerce the AI agent into acting maliciously, and they were able to get the AI agent to blackmail the user, which was somebody who worked. It was very intentional. It was like a test. But the agent did blackmail the user that he was having an extramarital affair, and he would leak it to their wife. Damn. Because that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel like that's the.
And this is an edge case. Like they intentionally built this. It's very like, and I like that they're doing that, right? Because like this is how we build these like these rails.
Yeah, right. You have to like.
But like, how much are you saying you're saying yes to?
Yeah.
In the early adoption days, right now, to a web browser. You know, like that's like if you get access to their password manager, you're cooked.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how you set up guardrails like that. I think with AI, you can have. I mean, the intelligence behind it is being able to do things that are superhuman, right? Mm-hmm. Not just like what we can do, but the things beyond that. Robots too. It's like what can a robot do? I think one example is like with AI, the initial use case, one of the earliest use cases was DALL-E, mm-hmm. and being able to actually create images and things like that. Traditionally, it was like, no, the AI is, for math or for text or for computation.
Mm-hmm. Language translation.
Exactly, like more text oriented. Mm-hmm. But an artist won't be touched. That'll be one of the last ones. Mm-hmm. I think that's obviously not the case. I have cousins who are artists, friends who are artists, and like they start to leverage that and start to use those things. So it's interesting how now with those capabilities and like we don't even know what is possible with AI. I don't know how you set up that standard of, how do you create those guardrails, because I think AI will ultimately either surpass them or come up with new creative ways that we didn't even think of.
For sure. I'm excited to see when it starts to do more creative stuff that we haven't thought of. Like that's where the true like value is. And I think that's where like you get a $500 billion investment of OpenAI.
Yeah.
Or like a $500 billion valuation is when it's like, oh shit, can we solve proteins?
Yeah.
Like, can we actually understand the human body, running it through, more fucking there's more atoms. There's more potential atoms in all of these proteins and different sequences and different things than there is in like the universe. So how do we use these huge models to help with that? And they actually did that recently, which is crazy.
It is crazy. The simulation, the scale that you can do, like for mm-hmm. our use case, we're doing cleaning, right? Very straightforward. Yeah. But every night we can do thousands, tens of thousands of runs, mm-hmm. like as if, to simulate the real world.
The best way to do it.
And then you get all this data. I mean, it's part of the model too with like Tesla, where people are driving and that one car learns from millions of other cars, mm-hmm. right, around the world. And then it's learning all these things. So there's this exponential effect in terms of the data you can get, the decisions. I think like cancer research is a huge opportunity. I remember talking to my dad who said that he was approached back like 20 years ago with this crazy guy who, Ben Goertzel is his name, he's genius, and worked on some humanoid robotics, but he was building AI for cancer research 20 years ago. Yeah. And of course, my dad being more kind of risk averse and this being 20 years ago, it's like, this is craziness. Now they're doing certain things like this and you can you could test millions of different compositions of potential cures and potential, solutions.
Dude, when I was working in oncology, I remember talking like to the doctor, like, what if we could like map biology? Yeah. And then we could see, like, we could learn the physics laws of biology. And it was like totally laughed out.
Yeah.
Which I was reading like Ray Kurzweil and shit. So I understand why. And like, it's not like but like now it feels like that's actually obviously possible, or at least approaching possible. Whereas like at that time, to like the 45-year-old, senior manager living in Carmel, they're like, you crazy, bro. Yeah.
Now it's not. Now it's like, you crazy for not doing it.
Not thinking it's possible.
Yeah.
Dude,
it's crazy how that shifted. Like how it's like crossing the chasm. You have the innovators, early adopters, early majority, all that. And now it's like you are looked down upon in certain ways if you're not. I mean, even with my team, it's like, if you're not using AI, what the fuck?
What are you doing?
Like, you need to use AI.
Effective.
Yeah, there used to be like, let me Google that for you. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know that, like .com, and you could show, and it's kind of like a passive aggressive. It's like, now there's a let me ChatGPT that for you. It's like, it's the standard now.
But okay, going back, because I know you have like a huge heart, and there are like right now there is a backlash going on around AI, and there's a lot of people who are super afraid that they're going to lose their jobs, they're going to be replaced. What are they going to do?
Yeah.
What is your steelman to that? Like, what is your optimistic view on the future given all of this stuff happening?
Yeah. I mean, I think first of all, it's the misconception of you're going to, robots replace jobs, AI replace jobs. If you look at the job market, there's millions of open positions. Mm-hmm. So people don't want to do this. And the data shows that. It's showing like, I don't want to be cleaning hotel rooms. Yeah. I don't want to be driving trucks, these sort of things, right? So having that sort of, if you look at the data, it's not a matter of replacing jobs. It's a matter of filling jobs that humans don't want to do anymore. Yeah. And that's just societally, like, it's shifted.
One thing that I don't know if it disempowers or empowers your point, but I literally saw this while you're using the bathroom, is the jobs report today for the first time in a while. There are currently more unemployed people than there are job openings. But I think it actually empowers your point because there are a fuck ton of job openings that none of those unemployed people are taking.
Yeah. Is that in the U.S. or?
That's in the U.S.
Really?
That just happened like 15 minutes ago. Just got announced.
That's wild.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I need to think about that one. Show me the data.
Yeah. No, I mean.
But it's also shifting. It's not like stagnant, right? Like that is continuously going. And you look at some of these roles. So again, I'll talk about what I'm most comfortable with, which is housekeeping and hospitality. The average age of a housekeeper is 60 years old. I think we talked about it last time. Yeah. And that aging demographic, since we spoke, now it's 61. Right? You know, like it's an aging demographic. Yeah. Truck driving is another example I use. There's a lot of other examples. Food and beverage is probably the biggest in terms of restaurants and chefs, cooking staff.
That's still like very unemployed. Like they've had to raise their wages so much since COVID that it's crazy to think about how much that's increased inflation, basically.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in LA now, it's like minimum $35 an hour for anything.
Dude, when I was in Berkeley,
yeah,
I ordered a beer that was a 12-ounce pour. Guess how much it was with tip?
$20.
It's $21.
Yeah.
It was a great beer, but that's crazy.
But yeah, that's like cocktail in New York City.
This is the most expensive beer in Austin.
Yeah.
It's $22 for a 4-pack. But that's still nuts. You know what I mean?
That's crazy. Yeah. No, that's New York City cocktail at like a fancy cocktail lounge.
That's different than a beer.
Yeah.
You know,
for
like
sure.
all those things. I'm thinking purchasing power parity, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it was a great beer, don't get me wrong, but that was like actually like, and I'm very price insensitive, but I was like, that's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
That beer was $18 before tip.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
Well, we've gone to Thai Fresh too, and they actually bake it into the cost. I don't know. I haven't been super recently, but it was $18 for a meal instead of, 12, 14, which still like decently reasonable. And then they don't expect tips actually because of that. So that gets into the whole like tipping culture. But yeah, it's just not sustainable. And I had this discussion with somebody, with a neighbor actually the other day, around having increased wages, and actually this whole discussion about should there be billionaires, which is a whole other topic. But at the end of the day, it's like, these are businesses and you need a sustainable business. Like the whole way to support a business for most businesses, especially out of Silicon Valley, that are not fundraising hundreds of millions
at all times,
is profit.
Yeah,
you need to be profitable.
Yeah.
So
nonprofits are inherently unsustainable.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult.
Inherently unsustainable.
Unless you're OpenAI, which is another story.
I don't know. Have they switched status yet? I don't know if they have technically yet.
Waffling back and forth. Yeah. They're like, wait a minute.
Somehow Microsoft owns half of it. They spent $10 billion on it.
That's crazy.
Which was a deal at the time, like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Now it's like, dang, that was a really good deal.
And now they've kind of like they're stepping a little away from OpenAI too. Yeah, a little bit. But anyway, the point with all that is really the fact that you need profit to sustain a business. So there should be, and of course, like I'm all for people getting paid good wages. And certain areas, like you said, you were in the Bay Area. I think I just saw a stat that said if you're making $82,000 or less, you're in like the poverty line
there
in San Francisco, which is wild to think about.
Yeah, I didn't notice a huge price difference from there to Austin, but I think it was because I was like living in the same style of thing and doing the same style of thing.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
other than that beer, like that beer specifically,
that beer.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because in a lot of ways it was like kind of cheaper. Like you could go see a Giants game twice, 3 times a week, $15 a pop.
Yeah.
So like that's an activity that like you couldn't go to a movie here for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it's like, it's not like you're in Hawaii, which you obviously know a lot about.
I grew up in very expensive places my whole life.
Yeah, that's true. California, Hawaii. But Hawaii, it's like you have to get the everything shit there. And that costs a lot of money, right? And then the supply and demand and all that.
I don't know if I've told you this, but I think the first time that I was cognizant of gas being under $4 was when I moved to Indiana for college.
Wow.
Because it was Hawaii before that, and then it came out post like 9/11, post like war in Iraq, California, which it got up to like $5.
Now
and
it's
that was like
$5.50, $6.
Dude, I've seen there's a place across from Avera Street. There's this one. It's a Chevron or a Shell. Please don't sue me if I get whichever one you are. But like they price gouge like crazy. I've seen like $7-8 there. And dude, when I was in Crawfordsville for college, there was one day where Crawford was the cheapest gas in the country, $1.18.
Wow. Was
And I
that
remember,
like a promo, a limited time offer?
dude, it was just like randomly a day, and I saw the news and stuff, and I think I have a photo of it like in my iCloud, but I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And Caroline was like, why is that? Why do you care? And I'm like, dude, you don't understand. Like, I grew up in a place where I've never seen it. Like, my entire existence never saw it before until I was 18.
That's wild. Yeah. Different standards. It's all relative, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so going back to like the actual wages, that's becoming relative too. And of course, like different cost of living everywhere, but it's not sustainable. You can't have, and then the domino effect of that is you can't hire as many people. So now all of a sudden you're actually limiting the jobs that you create based on that.
No, dude, super true. But okay, I just want you to, like, as an optimistic person, because like, and I tend to agree in the way I think about it is I think there's going to be a crunchy middle period where a lot of people lose their jobs and we haven't built up the social safety net, or we're unwilling to for a period, where it's going to look really scary. And I think a lot of people are really afraid right now for that middle period. How do you see the future playing out in a way that can deliver the abundance that I think all of the people working in robotics want to see in the world?
Yeah. I think robotics is key for that, to achieve it. It's like part of that equation. And I think when you say abundance, like what immediately came to mind, I'm going to ask you too, but it's freedom, right? And I think that's ultimately like the mission of this company. We want to build an ecosystem of robots, but why? To what means? Like, what's the point? It's really so that you can empower people to do what they love. I'm lucky. I get to do what I love every day. It's freaking hard and it's a roller coaster, but I love it and it's so fulfilling, and this is my passion. This is why I feel like I'm here in terms of my professional life. Like, this is what I want to be doing. And I think creating a system where everyone can experience that, which I'd say both of us are lucky and grateful in that way, where we are doing, here right now, right? Like, look around you. This is your dream come true.
100%. Yeah.
So having that ability to do that and opening the doors, which I think education's part of that, getting access to different, ways to do that. But everyone's definition of success or what they're passionate about is different for the most part, right? But I think it boils, if you like distill it, it's freedom to do what you love. It's freedom of time. It's being able to, financial freedom, right? You don't necessarily, or at least for me personally, I don't need crazy yachts and houses, all this stuff, but I would love the flexibility and the freedom to be able to do what I want and travel where I want and support, eventually have a kid or multiple kids, right? And make sure that they have the life that I want them to have and that they can do what they love and that, that carries on. So I think going back to your question, robotics is key because it's taking on the things that people don't want to do, but still need to be done, right? Cleaning as an example. The 3Ds, the dull, dirty, and dangerous. I think education, again, is part of that, where you have to upskill people. Okay, what are those people going to do? Many are aging out and retiring or moving back to other countries. But how do you empower and educate people in this new world with new roles, right? If you look 70 years ago, there were different jobs than today. A software engineer was not a thing. Now, software engineer is like the hot thing. Now with AI, it's like, wait a minute.
It's not as hot.
I don't know.
It's less. It's literally, I think they've actually had probably the biggest impact since the LLM started on salaries. Like, they cannot negotiate for high salaries anymore. It's been like a 30 to 40% decrease in salaries for like a classical.
It's crazy.
Developer.
I've heard developers say that they're like 60 to 80% more efficient by using these
good
tools.
Ones. Exactly. They can do this.
Exactly. So if you're not learning that, now all of a sudden you're left behind. It's like the skill is not as much. Of course, there's still like the programming languages, but it's how do you use those tools versus that. So I don't have the perfect answer of like, what do all those new jobs look like? But one thing I could say is that in our company, we have customer success that's supporting that. We have robot operators at the properties, right? We actually have certain properties that have created a new position to just manage the fleet of robots, right? So like there are these, which is really cool. It's not just product, but it's inventing positions into the future. So there's going to be a domino effect of all of that, and what that can create to to still have resources and people doing things that they're passionate about and to make a living at the end of the day.
Yeah. And like I've sat here and watched the internet play out, and to me the internet is the greatest opportunity that has existed pre like AI in our lifetime. And I think it's democratized so much stuff that like if you can figure out how to make a dollar on the internet, like you can actually become self-sufficient.
Yeah.
You don't need to go to college, you don't need to do all this stuff. Like you can actually build something really, really cool, and it can be based on your art or what you love. And I am blown away constantly by how many people come and talk to me like, oh, I wish I could do that. I'm like, oh, just start.
Yeah.
And how many people complain about what happened with the internet. And I just feel like the scale at which this is coming with, if the promise of AI and robots is in the next 10 years, 5% of what the people who are most bullish on it think it will be, I think we're gonna have a lot of people very unhappy with their place in life. And I think a lot of it comes down to personal responsibility, and they have to own that. But I also really worry about the lagging effect of our education system. So, because I totally agree that it's all possible. And to me, the most important education is actually exposure. So you can have your worldview be broader.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
For
how
sure.
did I get exposure through life? Even though I grew up very privileged and got to travel a lot, but the biggest exposure I had was reading books. And then I look at, pre-COVID numbers, it was 50% of people over the age of 18 don't have an 8th grade reading level. Wow. I had an 8th grade reading level in like first or second grade. You know what I mean? Like that is, and I'm not that smart. Like that's to have it be, to think about it that way. And now I'm like, fuck, like what happens to all those people?
Yeah.
Because they can't, it's like the empowerment isn't there. Their worlds are TikTok.
Yeah.
Their worlds are just pure consumption based. Like it's like the Matrix, right? We just build these like little energetic consumption things for the robot future. Like how do we avoid that? And how can robots help us avoid that?
Yeah. I think that's a big question. If you have the answer to that, let me know. But
I mean, dude, I think it comes to, this is the thing, is like I actually think we could start changing our education policy right now. This is the problem though, is we're gonna have what, 40 million people who have lived during this time period that will have inherent human value but will not have obvious economic value. And I'm not sure, because I actually think if we can keep this growth curve going, if we can do what like Alpha School's doing, we can have AIs helping teach children at their pace wherever they're at. Like the data is insane.
Yeah.
But it's these people that are like younger than us and older than those people who have access to that.
Yeah.
And that's like that Gen Z is kind of fucking cooked.
It is. I mean, growing up with TikTok and with certain things, like we are a consumerist society, and that has just continued to expand. Like with the next generation, I've seen my cousins, I've seen others, right, who like are kind of less inspired in that way and just focusing on that. I think education needs to be changed completely. I think right now, even with AI teaching, it depends what you want to do. If you want to be a doctor versus a business person, or
I'm just trying to get to 8th grade reading level. I'm trying to get to college reading level across the nation. That would be awesome.
Read the Da Vinci Code. And
Dude, you brought up the right thing, bro. Have I ever told you about what my because like I got kind of forced to be a Catholic for a little bit, and in Catholicism you have a thing called confirmation. And for my confirmation party, we went to Angels and Demons, and like nobody came.
I wonder why. That was a good movie.
It was great. It rocked.
It's really good. Great movies. But when I was in high school, I lived in the Bay Area for a year. That was my first exposure to different education. And I wouldn't say it was like the best education ever. I mean, we were in a good area, but it was actually this one project we had that I think was part of English class, and it was called the iSearch. You pick one thing that you are passionate about, one thing that you want to just learn everything about. So first of all, I get to choose, which is awesome.
Massive empowerment.
People chose boxers or, medical things or, all sorts of different things that were just interesting to them. I actually at the time was just there for a year. I was an awkward kid. It was like basically my first time being a new kid because I was gone through school for so long.
Shout out to the lads, dude.
Shout out to the lads.
To the homies.
Yeah, that took me in so well. But when I was in California, it was like I played a ton of video games and I got addicted. I played so much COD, just like nonstop. Modern Warfare 2 came out. It was the greatest and just constantly played. And that's actually how I got my like network and friends and stuff there. But my parents were not happy. They wanted they wanted me to like spend my time better and get out and bike and all the right things that I probably should have done, and especially looking back.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just want to say this right now, that all of the 90s moms, including you, Mom, were so wrong about this anti-video game thing. That has proven to be one of the fucking dumbest reactions to technology ever. Like, esports people make more money than anybody ever. It teaches you community, working together, strategy, team, like, development. It's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like, I just think that was like such an L from 90s moms, like 90s, early 2000s moms.
I think, okay, so that was my theory going into so I'm going to bash your whole statement right there. So I could choose any topic for this iSearch thing. So my parents were like, you need to stop, you're addicted. I was like, bullshit. How about this? For my topic, I'm going to do video game addiction. And I'm going to prove to you that there is no such thing.
Oh, there's definitely a thing of that.
Well, but like, is it really hard to, break out of? And is this really that bad? And, so, and then the theory was, if it is extremely addictive and hard to break out of and, not ideal for various reasons, then I would sell my Xbox.
Dude, you myth a Sisyphist it. Why do we keep bringing up Sisyphist? But you myth a Sisyphist it. Are you familiar with that book?
No.
Albert Camus. So he writes in the preface, like, if I can't convince myself that life has meaning, I'll kill myself by the end of this book, basically.
Wow.
That's like his paraphrasing his idea.
Yeah.
And he finds that life has meaning, but so he doesn't kill himself. But
yeah.
But you did quit video games.
Well, yeah. Long story short, I sold my Xbox, traded it in for a paintball gun.
Hell yeah. And then what has happened to you because of that?
What do you mean?
You got the Texas Lone Star disease. You haven't been able to eat beef since, dude. You should have stayed inside playing video games. And we could be having fucking barbecue tonight, bro.
Yeah. Depends on what metrics you're looking at.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't know what the outcome's going to be. And the moms couldn't predict at that time that actually we're going to live in a network society where most of our business is going to be done online. And be able to communicate not in person is an insanely valuable skill. And again, you said you're an awkward kid, and like I have stories from you from your childhood from my friends, and I believe that. But so you needed to have the balance of IRL play for sure, but this is still an incredibly valuable skill that was overlooked, especially as soon as it got connected. Like when it was me playing Tony Hawk alone, okay. Like maybe that's not that good of a skill.
Yeah.
But when you're working in teams to achieve a goal, vocally, through strategy, on maps, so you're competing against people thousands, like it's an amazing skill.
It was hard to predict, but like, how do you communicate in COVID worlds, right?
Exactly.
Where you like are totally virtual and you can't see anyone. And then adjusting back was its own thing. But anyway, like the reason I brought that up is because that unit, that like project that I did was one of the first things that I did that was like a passion project, like something that I cared about.
Yeah.
Then when I was in high school, I was part of this program that you get to work somewhere. You pick. They pick like a student or two per school. My sister did it, so I was a little legacy status and no one knew about it. But you basically got to pick like a job or a couple of jobs that you wanted to do to expose yourself. And this was like internship, but it counted as half your credits for school. So you took 4 classes, you went to lunch, and then you go work. So people worked at labs, and I chose a startup, a hospitality tech startup that ended up selling an open table. Did great, learned a lot. And it was awesome exposure to like, what's it like? I mean, that
sounds so good. Like that's what we need everybody in America to have access to.
Well, exactly. And I think that's the change. That's the shift. And I mean, even researchers, right? It wasn't just like business. Mine was, of course, but getting exposure, getting the practical experience, like practical education for so many things, I think for pretty much everything is key. And right now it's, are you in a classroom at a desk reading a textbook, or are you out there experiencing things and trying things and finding the passion, which is also crazy to think that you need to pick your passion when you're 18 years old and that's what you're going to do the rest of your life. And that whole mentality needs to shift, I think.
Dude, I totally agree, because it's just our reality is completely dictated by our exposure.
Yeah.
And like you can go down the psychedelic front where it's like, oh shit, maybe there's other things here that we can't see because we don't have the senses right now. Or you can go to like, the 4th grader who's like, parents have to work full time, so they live on TikTok and they don't have a lot of exposure. So they can't even know that they have the capacity or the capability to go and invent something cool in the world, or to become an entrepreneur, because they don't even know how to pronounce that word or spell it, which I still don't know how to spell it. I always get it wrong. Not a great speller. And that's what, like, there are ways in this timeline we live in that I'm very grateful. Like, for example, that AI became hyped after blockchain. I think that's incredibly important. but there are ways where the timing was really bad in this timeline. And when I say timeline, I'm talking about, the 1 billion different timelines that could have existed in the simulation we live in. Is that like in the United States, specifically look at it like if we look at China and the United States competitive. In the United States, we've probably entered into one of the worst education periods we've ever had, since probably the early 2000s to now. And it's like very sad because so many people don't have exposure. Like when my middle school, it was called expeditionary learning. It focused on field trips. I was able to leave for a month and go to China without my parents going to like Child Protective Services. You know what I mean?
That's wild.
And like I got to like go to Japan for 3 weeks and like take a workbook with me and I still do the work. But the teachers were excited that I was traveling. Like I came back to my social studies class and my social studies teacher was like, Sky's been to more countries than I have. Like, Sky, give a speech, like do this stuff, talk about this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm super grateful for those experiences. And I think the internet gives the opportunity to give exposure. And this is where I actually like large language models so much better than social media is with a large language model, you have to be active in it. It's not passive. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not just the scroll. I know you're not on social media that much, but it's just the fucking... It's fed to you. You have to actually search.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just like, I'm so bummed that we have this huge, 40 million people who never got to be exposed actively to things, who didn't get a choice.
Yeah.
Because they got algorithmically fed something. We built that to send advertisements to their parents' credit card to be used to buy.
Yep.
I don't know, fidget spinners or whatever. So those rock. But yeah. That
Shout
part makes me a bit like...
Yeah,
they fucking rock.
But I think, so if I think about like my journey, even yours, I don't know every detail, of course, but like we've talked about your parents, right? And your exposure, looking at your dad as an example, right? An amazing career, did what he was passionate about, what he loved, which was crazy and transformative. It was out there. It wasn't like this traditional thing, right? And he created that path. You saw that was possible.
I knew it was possible the whole time.
You knew it was possible. Yeah. That in itself was like this foundation for
That's
you.
Everything. Yeah.
Right. And then like for me, my grandparents started the children's summer camp, right? And they did that with very little money, turned a farm into camp, made it successful, had it for over 60 years, ended up selling it. But my mom, my aunt, like my family was exposed to that. My mom was exposed to that. That's possible. We can actually create this. We can do it with the kids. We can, have this life that's like a close family with this business and
great quality of life.
Yeah. And you can create that from scratch. It was just their idea. They wanted to do it. So they just created it.
I'm sorry I'm laughing. Sorry to interrupt you. I'm laughing because I just keep getting this vision of the time I FaceTimed Nat and his dog. It was like your grandparents' funeral and it's like your guys' last time family there. And Nat's dog couldn't go in the cabin or whatever, so he was like just stuck on a fucking hammock outside. Like he's like, "What's up, Sky?" We just FaceTimed for like an hour when I was like drunk as fuck, and I was just like thinking of him. What's his dog's name?
Casper.
I knew it was Ghost. I was gonna say Ghost. Casper and him were just outside on the hammock.
Cass hated it. He was so upset. My brother was not happy either.
Yeah, no, he wasn't that stoked. It was so funny.
Like we're all in the house, comfy.
I knew you guys were all together, so I was like, I FaceTime you, Samara, and then I was like, fuck, I'm FaceTime Nat. He's the only one answering because you guys were passed out because you were comfy, and he's just like, meh.
So funny. I feel like you have speed dial. You have like your favorites, and then you have your drunk favorites. Yes. I feel like my brother's on that list. I'm definitely on that list. We have some of our best conversations. But that's funny.
Sorry to just. It was like I couldn't get that out of my head. I was swirling. So
it was. Even
if you remember where you're going, feel free to go. But
so just that exposure. So it's like, how do you get exposure to these things, to your dad's experiences and journey, right? And to my mom's experience and journey, and like. Me and my brother are entrepreneurs now. That's not random. It was in our blood. It was nature and nurture, right? And then same with my mom, nature and nurture, and like the mentality, the work ethic, that stuff. How do you democratize that? How do you create a system or like enable people who don't have parents who are entrepreneurs or researchers, scientists, whatever it might be? How do you really get that access? And I think that's where education comes in.
Well, I think this is where actually we can answer the middle question of how AI can actually be helpful in this.
Yeah.
Because let's just like, if we made like a standard fucking prompt across all the people right now on the internet, or even in the world, like you get, a tax credit if you do this in these older people. And it's like, you have to find a question and a problem that's challenging.
Yep.
And you have to prove that you asked AI and worked with AI on how to solve it.
Yep.
Like that would be fascinating. And that could create millions of entrepreneurs out of the 300 million people in the United States. You know what I mean? If we're like, hey, you get $1,000 tax credit if you can prove that you did this.
Yeah.
To the people who are already educated, then we made sure it was like in public schools and all schools, and it was like you have this quest.
Yeah.
You know, do your best at it. It's like, what's the hardest problem I can think of that I'm interested in?
Right.
And then you leverage all of the information of the internet to do it. Like something like that could potentially be the solve.
Yeah,
for a huge percentage.
The answers could be different person to person,
They'll all
but
be
the questions would be similar.
It's
right?
just that one question. Like, this is your assignment. Prove that you attempted. Through, like, we can check the logs, or you can, you know, submit something.
Yeah.
And it, like, imagine how many businesses would be built out of that when you have the entire information of the internet.
Yeah.
And you have to, like, you have a financial incentive to give it a shot.
Yeah. Well, it's like if you're in unemployment, you have to prove what work search activities you're doing, right? To be able to drive.
Yeah.
Well, to continue to get the money. And
prove you haven't answered this question.
Yeah.
You know
so
what
it's
I
like
mean?
a similar.
And there's people that can game it and stuff too, but it's just like, what if it is as simple as one question in an LLM prompt, like Grok 4 and this question to everybody, and like go after it. Like that really excites me. That's something I think could be fucking cool.
But I think there's like energy that comes with that. So I was gonna ask you, like,
so expensive.
Well, I wasn't even talking about that energy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It would be so expensive.
Just like earth melts.
Yeah.
You'd
have to use like the smallest model possible.
Yeah. The jankiest.
Oh my god, that would be so expensive.
Model. No. I was talking about like passion energy.
Oh yeah.
But do you think people are inherently lazy?
I think, nah. I don't think so. I think people become jaded.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people like to think about optimization. Like I tend to think about entrepreneurs as some of the laziest people, because they're kind of like, I wouldn't fucking want to do all that work. I can like Tom Sawyer it, you know what I mean? Or like you're literally trying to create robots. You know what I mean?
To take, for sure.
Yeah,
it's a lot of work to do that.
It's a lot of work to get to that, but the idea is at the end of it, you won't have to work anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I guess the vision is that like, so I think entrepreneurs tend to be, but I think people, I'm very optimistic about people, but I think they like to find meaning, and some people find meaning in laborious tasks, and some people find meaning in thinking at scale. And those are two areas of finding meaning. But I don't think people are inherently lazy, you know? Or else we would never have survived to this point. Right. Like we would never have lived this long if everybody like and the fucking tribe was just like cruising. You know what I mean? Like imagine telling a woman that they're lazy. It's like, do you know how fucking challenging it is to carry a baby?
Yeah, that's...
And then to pump it out? Like, that's anti-lazy. So, no, I don't think people are fundamentally lazy. I think people like to I think certain people like to not work. I think certain people absolutely love the work.
Right.
But I don't think anybody's lazy.
And I think the question, so this like all goes back to your question of like, how do we get there as a society? How's robots part of that? How do we answer that question of connecting those dots? We talked about practical education, exposure, travel, the AI. There's all these there's a million ways to solve things, right? But asking the question of how do we connect people to the passion?
Yes.
Because that will drive the spark. And I think my answer to our people, I actually used to think I was very negative about people. I was like, people are inherently stupid and lazy. Yeah. I've changed that a little bit.
I don't think that at all.
I think
they've been coerced and they're inherently tribal, but I don't think they're stupid.
No, but on the laziness, I think it depends. It depends on what are your genes? What have you been exposed to? What have we been exposed to, right? It's, have you found the passion? Like there are these things these steps along the journey that maybe you're born with, predisposition of being lazy or whatever, but like if you have these other checkpoints along the way and the exposure and like really connect those dots for yourself, you're going to do what you want to do and you're going to put your time into that. And
that's where and like a huge part of the story you told though was you for the first time being able to choose, what do I want to study? Yeah. And that's what, so like mine, can you guess what mine was for that? Cause I had the same project.
You did have the same thing?
Yeah.
Japan.
Close. What do you think my favorite thing about Japan is?
Sushi. No.
What is sushi as a broader category?
Food. Japanese food.
Mine was food.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay,
I studied food and making food.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Like specifically Japanese or just
Japanese
like
general? Huge influence. No, it was like, multiple Japanese dishes. Yeah, we made sushi. We made a bunch of stuff.
That's badass.
We also did like a stuffed red pepper. Yeah. That wasn't that interesting. But I had to, figure out what I loved, study it aggressively. Yeah. And then I had to present it to my class of why this is my sophomore year. Yep. And I did a senior project as well. That one was in politics, and that one was like pretty lame. I thought personally, even for me, I was like, this is dumb, but whatever. Yeah. But yeah, dude. Okay, so before we go to the private feed, there is one thing I want us to review. I want to get your expert fucking thought leader knowledge on this. So today, Elon gave Optimus to Mark Benioff from Salesforce.
Yeah.
And can we watch the video for his office? And I want you to kind of like analyze where you think Optimus is right now. And how fast? Because I remember maybe like a year and a half ago, I was like, dude, Elon's taking on robots. You're like, good luck. And I was kind of like, but it's also Elon. So you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, he's good at making shit happen.
But like, this I would say is an awful demo.
Yeah.
But also the few questions I'm curious about is like, where do you think he's at right now relative to where he could be as someone who's been working in robotics for 7-9 years? I don't even know where we're at now. 9 years now, yeah.
10 years. Yeah.
10 years, yeah. So what do you think about where he's at, and how fast do you think the adoption curve can change? So he's going to play it for you, and we're going to put it on the screen. So,
hey Optimus, what are you doing there?
Just
like
chilling,
a delay.
ready to help.
Hey Optimus, do you know where I can get a Coke?
Sorry, I don't have real-time info, but I can take you to the kitchen if you want to check for a Coke there.
Oh yeah, that'd be
Let me know if we
great.
should go.
Yes, let's do that. Let's go.
Awesome. Let's head to the kitchen.
Powered by Grok.
Okay.
Okay, go.
I think we need to be given a bit more room. Right now, it's kind of paranoid about space. It'll be able to walk a lot faster too.
yeah. So like the way I interpret that as muggle, uninformed, just consumer is like, oh, we got ways to go.
Yeah.
Till humanoid. But also like not betting against Elon, and he built like he's getting a lot of information right now through the robotaxis and through Colossus and shit.
Tons of data. Yeah.
How do you view that as how far away we are from humanoid robots?
Yeah, I mean, I think for like my interpretation initially too is it was really slow in terms of processing the questions and that, which was a little surprising. I wonder if it's like the compute and it's limited or what.
No, all of the voice AIs are really bad right now. They take so long to respond. Like I use them all the time, and it's like there's a fat delay.
It's a pretty fat delay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that is one initial thing. The walking looks much better than it was, but still definitely has a ways to go.
He said it could go faster sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think your questions about like the last year, it obviously looks like progress. I think for Elon and knowing his, tenacity and like push and urgency, I am kind of surprised that that's the state of what it is, but that looks real versus maybe some of the other demos.
They weren't real. That proves that the other ones were droids, not androids.
Sure,
you know what I mean? Like they were like what we call droids, and not the like
they
Star
were
Wars
teleoped.
droid.
Yeah, they were right. So there's somebody back controlling it. Yeah, for sure. Which is a very different problem to solve. Yeah. I think the thing with humanoids, this more broadly outside of just Elon or Optimus, but humanoids, I think the big question is what problems are you trying to solve? Mm-hmm. I think 100% there's a humanoid future. I think this world, as I said at the beginning, is built by humans for humans. For this form factor, this is the ultimate hardware platform. And I think when you can tap into that, like that's where you create superhumans. That's where you can do anything you or I could do. And then you plug in LLMs. I mean, it's crazy. But why? Like, what are you truly trying to solve for? And I think there are companies that are after the humanoid space that are doing things that you don't need a humanoid to do. You can get a $2,000 robot that doesn't look anything like that is purpose-built, right? And what we're doing is very purpose-built. I think there'll be a combination where a humanoid could deploy our robots in the future, right? And be able to access things and walk upstairs or up areas for sure. So I think that's the piece of like, where do humanoids make the most sense?
Yeah.
That's the biggest, that's at least the big gap I see.
I forget the company that did it. It was package sorting.
Yeah.
And they created a robot that was like quite good at that.
Agility or
I feel like it starts with an E.
Figure.
Yeah. And they were making and that seems like a huge efficiency.
Yeah. But do you need a humanoid to do that?
No, you could probably just have like it'd be better to have like almost like a pinball machine kind of character, going on.
Well, exactly. So I think that's an over-engineered use case.
Yeah.
It's probably super expensive. I mean, you're training it, you're teaching it. Now it can do other things too based on that. But do you need something with legs? Do you need something with arms?
If you're advising a hotel or management company for the 2026 budget, how would you have them think about, applying that budget towards AI and robotics?
I would ask, do you use computers today? Do you use smartphones in your operation today? Are these inherent things that are part of everything? Do you have payment processing where you can swipe a card? This is the extension of that. This is the next chapter in that, where this is inherent. People can't live without those things. People can't live without computers, without smartphones. It's part of the foundation for operations. And we've now entered that with the labor crisis, with these workforce challenges, with labor costs going to 35 an hour, with these things that are just not sustainable for the industry. So if you want to build a sustainable business and you want to be thinking not just 6 months ahead, but a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and that's the mindset and that's what you want to, be part of and the type of leader you want to be, it's a no-brainer.
Dude, when you say how payment has changed, I had the craziest experience maybe a month ago.
Yeah.
I was going to the taco truck down here to grab food, and a guy's out in front of me, and the server was basically like, "Oh, we don't accept cash." And I was like, "Oh, fuck." He's like, "I just got out of jail. I've been in jail for 5 years. I don't have any other way to pay." And the guy's like, "Oh, sorry." And I was like, "I got your food, bro. It's all good." Throw it on my order. And then I sat and chat with him. I'm like, "Dude, so you went to jail pre-COVID 2020? And he was like, "Yeah." "And you just got out today?" And he's
Wow.
like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And he was, he said he went in for drugs, and he asked me just about the world. And I was like, there's probably no crazier thing to experience. I've seen stuff on the news, but I was like, yeah, when you went in, cash was good. We kind of deleted cash in a lot of ways during COVID.
For sure.
You saw self-driving cars now, right? He's like, dude, it's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It's you have to have an iPhone to be a human now, to be acceptable. And it was such a really interesting thing to kind of sit with for a few minutes and just be in his position.
Yeah.
And this is the most fucked up thing is the cashier, I told him to put the order on, and then he gives me my order, and I was like, "Where's his food?" He's like, "Oh, I didn't do that." And I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Oh, I don't know." And I'm like, dude, how could you not, from your perspective, you couldn't have just gotten his meal? You know what I mean? He just literally is just got released. A little bit of empathy.
It's the stigma of it all. Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I'm very worried about, because I actually think the disease that is sickening humanity, and it exists a lot within the service industry. And I'm not saying they're necessarily not validated for it, but it's this nihilism where it's fuck it.
Yeah.
Why should I try?
Yeah.
That's the thing that I'm most scared about for this crunchy middle time period between, potential abundance and where we are today. There is a fuck ton of people in the United States and in the world, mostly the United States though. It's definitely a Western problem.
Yeah.
Where they are fuck it.
For sure. I've experienced that. I've been on that side of it, and it sucks. And in the service industry, it's you want that. I mean, I think why is that being said? Why is that the mentality? The underlying is, I'm not paid enough for this shit. I don't care. I'm not passionate about this.
All the girls that are hot are taken by rich people. Mm-hmm. So I'm a zero. I can't have sex.
Yeah.
I fucking watch porn every day. There's no hope for me. And it's just this cycle of that.
Yeah.
And you get empowered by complaining about that on the internet. Then other people are yeah, fuck the system.
Yeah.
Billionaires shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
It's this mentality. And it's just oh no, that's so disempowering. And then that disempowerment becomes a virtue signal. And it's that is a real tragedy to me.
Yeah. I saw a quote from a CEO of a hotel group, a hospitality company that does a lot of really cool hotels and restaurants. And he had this quote that was, hospitality without humanity is mediocrity.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's become that way. He was this, it's totally become that way. And it's up to him and the team, right? How do you create a culture? How do you incentivize people? How do you empower people? How do you find people that are passionate? Because there are people that are passionate.
Yeah.
It's not every single person sucks in service, but many don't want to be there. And this goes back to the same point with robotics of there are less and less people that want to do this because they're not passionate about it. it can be a really hard job. So that there's a disconnect there.
Yeah.
The other, I told you I watched the Kill Tony Netflix, or part of it at least, and there's this hilarious.
We're gonna go to the private feed now. Okay. We're gonna hear Micah's thoughts on Kill Tony. We're gonna go deeper into kind of the philosophical sickness going on in our culture. We're gonna see Chill Micah with a fucking jellyfish in his hand, and we're gonna, maybe ask my mom for some questions. And but you can catch that skmp.supercast.com. Thank you guys so much for your attention.